Hey, Foundation, week 5 is officially over. Tonight on FRC Roundup, we'll be taking a look at 3 topics that cover everything from the current meta of Reefscape to discussion on rankings and tiebreakers reaching a DCMP and beyond, and a quick note about some Coral scoring adjustments made by First last week. All of this and more coming up on this episode of FRC Roundup.
This video on fun is brought to you by our viewers, supporters, members, and also in partnership with the following. Build your alliance with so many other First alumni who go to Kettering University. Every student at Kettering experiences their cutting-edge co-op programs that seamlessly blend the professional and academic worlds. Kettering co-ops are a fully immersive working experience at the leading edge of industry. Head on over to kettering.edu/first to learn more about their incredible programs and to get more information. Osh Cut is a premier metal cutting service for first teams. No minimum order, options for same-day turnaround, guaranteed lead times, and instant online quotes. Osh Cut is offering first teams 50% off any future order up to $200 when you scan the QR code or go to funroboticsnetwork.com/OSHCUT. Just upload a 3D model or plot pattern to get started.
Welcome to the show. If you have not caught our show previously, FRC Roundup is where we take a look at important topics currently happening in FRC, highlight some discussion points about events that may have happened, strategy, or really anything that correlates with FRC. If you, the fun community, think there is a topic that we should cover on FRC Roundup, please feel free to ping me in the fun Discord. I'll be more than happy to take a look at it. If you're not familiar with me, my name is Nick Mathis, currently in the First in Michigan region, and I'm a mentor on Team 33, the Killer Bees.
And I'm Connor McBride, mentor for Team 166 Chop Shop and an MC and game announcer in the New England District. Our guest tonight is Michael Corsetto. Mike is the head coach and lead technical mentor for the legendary Team 1678 Citrus Circuits out of Davis, California. Mike, welcome to the show and congrats on the win at Contra Costa this weekend.
Thanks so much, and great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. Always good to get Mike on the show. I believe this is your second or third time coming on, so always good to have some repeat people. But yeah, so we'll jump right into our first topic. The continued rotation that we have from week to week, breaking down Reefscape meta as it continues to develop from week to week. Mike, obviously, you guys had the privilege of competing over in California this weekend with 1323, and your third member is blanking me right now. But seems like you guys had a really good alliance running there together. Connor also had the privilege of competing this weekend over in New England. So, Mike, we'll start with you. I want to hear, what was 1678's overall approach to the weekend? How did you guys think the game played out? And then we'll jump to Connor and hear his team's thoughts.
Yeah, this weekend was our first opportunity to kind of cut in some changes to the robot that we had wanted to use week 3, but weren't quite ready yet. And so for those with a careful eye, they would have noticed a few mechanisms changed on the robot between Sacramento and Contra Costa. And I think we're seeing that happen across the board. Teams are making tweaks and mods to the robot to kind of line up with where the game is evolving to. And so a couple of the things that we did, we added a faster climber, with wheels to acquire the cage, kind of like Jack in the Bot, Team 27, a few others that pioneered that style of climb. And then we also modified our intake to be better at, we call it intaking the hot dogs when the coral's going straight into the intake versus we were hamburger only with our last intake, which meant that we couldn't intake on the ground in auto. So we are hot dog compatible now. And so we added a coral detect autonomous similar to what Orbit kind of pioneered at the beginning of the season. And so by the end of the weekend, we were hitting our 4-piece more often than not, and even grabbed a 5th in one of our qual matches. So looking forward to continuing to refine it. It was kind of a rush to get it ready before the weekend, but I think across the board, we're seeing a lot of teams that are making some of those mods to either get inspiration from other teams or just improving their game to the point where there's a lot of teams hitting 3.5, 4-piece autos now. 604 had a 4-piece auto when they were doing 2.5 or 3 at week 1. So yeah, the game is really improving. Teams are just more efficient and autonomous, more efficient in teleop. The barges are starting to fill up. The reefs are more full than empty in basically every playoff match. So it's pretty cool to see how things are evolving and where teams are finding ways to optimize their cycles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you. I do want to ask you a little bit about, I think you guys, your alliance was one of the first true alliances that we've seen kind of, hit the triple O. strategy over in playoffs pretty well. I thought this weekend. Would you mind going into a bit of detail on what was the thought process there doing triple O versus 201D, and what was the how'd that overall work out for you?
Yeah, we actually ran both. So the second pick for our alliance in the 24 spot was 649, who had previously won the Silicon Valley Regional 2 weeks earlier with 1323. So they knew their defensive game. They also had a solid single game piece L4 auto, and so they cooked on defense in match 1. And then we pulled the backup coupon right after match 1 because the next team in the draft was 6619, who we set a qualification match world high score with earlier in the tournament. And so we knew that their L1 game was really strong on Coral. And so we picked them up as a backup robot and ran them in match 7, which is when we set the playoff match world high score. Man, it is tough to coordinate 3 robots that are all doing high output. I mean, you really have to be specific about where you're expecting teams to grab Coral from, trying to stay out of each other's way. If you watch our first match, even though we were double offense, 1 defense in the first match, we were getting in 1323's way more than we were helping for the first half of the match. It is really hard to coordinate around this Reef sometimes. And when you have 3, it's even tougher. So I think it's possible to have triple O develop into one of the main strategies being implemented, but it is tough to keep all 3 teams cooking and not getting in each other's way, even if there's no defense being played. But yeah, we ran them in match 7, 6-6-19, and they were awesome. And then we elected to run 6-4-9 on defense for the rest of the tournament because the next 3 matches we played the number 2 seed, who were all 3 human load robots. And so we felt that 6-4-9's defensive style worked pretty well against that alliance. And so they stayed in for the rest of the tournament, and us in 1323 had to keep figuring out how to get better and better at staying out of each other's way and who's scoring on what parts of the Reef when and stuff like that. So by the end of the event, we started to flow, but it was not easy to figure out.
Mm-hmm. So I guess, would you mind going into a bit detail about, calling in 6619 after the first match? Was that just a versatility perspective, thinking, depending on how the tournament evolved, you get that way you guys had the versatility?
Yeah, I think we weren't sure ourselves which one we'd feel more comfortable running, and knowing that they were the first available backup robot, and our numbers had them as like second or third strongest L1 robot at the tournament with a ground intake, I should add. Really impressive machine. And so, the rules allow for the backup robot and then rotating teams in and out. Everybody was totally on board and understanding. I mean, we had a great alliance overall. So yeah, we wanted to have the optionality, and then also just having a robot that is solid on your alliance as a 4th robot. When things happen, I mean, tournaments are long and the robots are starting to see wear and tear at this point in the season. Mm-hmm. So it was important for us to have that security. And I should add, 6619 had a deep climb as well. And so they went back early in that first triple offense match to get the deep climb, which was a part of how we set the world high score. I mean, it was just an amazing robot to pick up as a backup robot at the event. That tells you how strong that event was overall.
Yeah, very much so. Well, thanks, Mike. Appreciate the in-depth detail. Connor, let's go to you. How did things, your team ended up with another finalist this past weekend, but as well bringing home the Impact Award. So congrats to you. But overall, wanted to hear how the weekend went for you guys, and how did 166 approach this version of Reefscape this weekend?
Yeah, so this was the 3rd play for us. So these district points were not going to count. So we went into this weekend wanting to try a couple different things. For a lot of what people might not have noticed is that I was actually not behind the glass this weekend. I was doing a little bit more of a strategy role, trying out different drive coach, trying out different things. And that was 50% of the reason why we're doing this event. The other 50% was for impact. That was a strategic move by looking at our first 2 events, Southern Maine and Pine Tree, looking at the teams that we're going to be competing against for that award, and seeing the teams that we were going to be up against. Oh boy, that spooked us. And it paid off in the end to go to UVM, and the inaugural UVM, the very first FRC event ever in the state of Vermont. So that was pretty cool. So we made it to the finals. That was really cool. Our teleop game was just cooking. I think we were averaging 15 to 16 coral a match for us, which that's a massive improvement from 2 weeks prior. where we had just completely did a full rebuild and we're still learning that robot during the event and didn't really get to figure that one out until playoffs of our week 3 event. But we got picked up by 839 Rosie Robotics out of the 2 seed. We ended up finishing 3rd, and 839 was absolutely fantastic to play with. A great group of mentors, students, amazing robot, just so much fun to work with and just try and work strategy. We were able to pick up 3323 as a second pick, who also had a deep climb, did pretty good zone defense there, as you can see in that match. It was just overall a great time. Really looking forward to district champs strat. We tried doing some triple offense at times. 3323 was the best algae robot on our alliance. So sometimes we had them just taking the algae off the reef, putting it into the processor. They couldn't barge. But it was still a way to be able to get, scoring output. It was only netting 2 points per algae, but that's 2 points nonetheless. And I think what we'll probably end up seeing later in the season is 2 points can literally be the difference between world champion and not world champion. So, we change it up every once in a while for depending upon what alliance we were going up against, and it paid off getting up to the finals, and then got absolutely steamrolled by that number 1 seed. But it was a lot of fun to play against them.
Yeah, awesome. Well, congrats. I know it's you had stated last week it's your guys' 3rd place, so good to get some practice in before DCMP. But I got to ask, we talked a little bit on the show last week. How was the free Ben and Jerry's there this weekend?
They didn't give us enough coupons, so I didn't get any.
No!
Yeah.
That's brutal.
Hey, Connor, I saw a picture of a Ben and Jerry's robot at that event. Can you talk a little more about it? I can't find the picture, but tell us more about it.
Yeah, so 2370 iBots from Vermont. They basically had a kit of parts, chassis, robot, black bumpers, and a giant small like pint thing of like Ben and Jerry's on the kit bot. So one of the big things to get teams to actually go to that event, because I mean for me, I'm in a little bit more northern of the central northern geographic of New England. We still had like a 2.5 hour drive to go up north, and there's only 1 or 2 teams up in that area. I think the majority of teams to drive to that event was 3 to 3.5 hours. So for New England, that's quite a far drive for us. So there were a lot of different incentives. So like, for example, if it was a 3rd play, that registration fee got waived for us. The teams up in Vermont and New England first worked out deals with hotels to get reduced pricing in hotel room blocks. Ben and Jerry's promoted that, hey, we're going to be doing free ice cream. So a lot of different kind of nice grabs to incentivize teams to go up there. And honestly, that worked out very well, because that was a 32 team event and 9 of us had it as an extra play. So almost that event almost didn't happen. But anyway, that robot, that robot, going back to that, it was just a way to promote, hey, Ben and Jerry's is here, go get some ice cream. What was really, it was pretty cool. So they did some wordplay on the flavor of one of the Ben and Jerry's flavors called Americone Dream. And they had the photo of Woody Flowers giving the thumbs up, holding the award, and did some nice first inspired wordplay on the whole cup. So it was really, really cool. It was nice, very touching. So
nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, before we jump into the next topic, let's bring Tyler on to hear from our friends at Kettering and start our first giveaway.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Nick. Hey, a few things, by the way, with Kettering University. If you are going to championships, make sure you keep an eye out for the Kettering University booth to learn, of course, more about Kettering University's scholarships and a bit more about their co-op programs that seamlessly blend the professional and academic worlds. Co-ops are not an internship, by the way. They're a fully immersive working experience at the leading edge of industry. So you can either check them out at championships, or right now go to kettering.edu/first, learn more about their incredible programs, and find out more about potential scholarships that you may be able to get, especially if you're looking to go to Kettering in future years as well, too. And find out why so many people in FIRST choose Kettering University at kettering.edu/first. As Nick mentioned, we're going to start our giveaway. Our first giveaway, we actually have a double giveaway here. It's for 2 Swift Rangers. So we'll be drawing 2 separate giveaway winners. So a little bit more about the Swift Ranger. If you don't know already, you can empower your robot using this ultimate LiDAR sensor designed to give you the edge in competition. Engineered by Swift Robotics, this compact yet powerful sensor delivers accuracy, reliability, and versatility. And unlike traditional sensors that use I2C, the Swift Ranger uses an analog interface, making it the perfect tool. So type in Ranger right now. That's your opportunity to win. We'll draw for that after our next segment. Thanks again to Swift Robotics, and let's send it back to the team to go into topic 2.
Awesome. Thanks, Tyler. And thanks again from our friends at Kettering University, as well as Swift for our first giveaway tonight. Joining our next topic of the night, highlighted by Mike, which I think we all have a correlated opinion on, but the co-op being the first tiebreaker for rankings. Definitely an interesting choice. I think we've all got some opinions on it, but Mike, I'll go ahead and start with you. What's your overall thoughts on co-op being the first ranking tiebreaker here?
Yeah, well, I'll say this was highlighted because Contra Costa, like we talked about earlier, was a super competitive event. It was kind of a 4-horse race all the way to the end in the rankings, and kind of developed into an interesting situation before the last set of matches. So with 11 matches played, us in 1323 were 1 ranking point ahead of 604, who was closely behind in third. All teams had even amount of co-op at that point, so it really came down to what the last match looked like. 604 and our matches were all back to back to back. 604 played first, then 1323, then 1678, and 604 executed their match perfectly, got 6 RP and the co-op, which then set the stage for the other 2 teams being either you need to get 6 ranking points or you need 5 with a co-op. If you don't execute on either of those, 604 ranks ahead of you. And so 1323 goes into their next match, and their opponents won't co-op with them because they know that if they co-op, Madtown has a better path to the number 1 seed. So Madtown doesn't get their team to co-op with them, but they get 6 ranking points. And that puts them ahead of 604 in the rankings for sure. That was the whole goal of not co-oping, right? Which makes sense to not have Madtown seed number 1 because they're the best robot in the world. And trying to break that up makes a lot of sense. But then by the time it came to our match, our opponents, who initially weren't going to co-op, which made perfect sense at the time, changed their minds because they knew that taking 604 to first wasn't on the table anymore. So they co-opted with us instead, and that gave us 6 ranking points plus the co-op, which put us ahead of Madtown in the rankings and gave us number 1. And so I think all this highlights is first insisting that co-op is something that should be a game mechanic is actually hurting the program. And they need to move on to better game mechanics that don't have perverse incentives that cause teams to make decisions that are kind of directly targeted at other teams at competitions. I was actually talking with Eugene, the coach of 604, who said that his favorite part about first is the co-op that happens in the pits at every event, where teams are helping each other and helping them get on the field. And he mentioned a event last year. We loaned 604 like some gears they needed for their intake. I didn't even remember this, but at the event where 604 beat us at SAC Regional, like their robot was only running because we happened to have the gears they needed for their intake. And that's what makes first special, right? It's not what happens on the field. And so this idea that teams can influence other teams' rankings just by choosing not to complete an activity they normally would just makes all these weird situations that don't leave people feeling great at the end of it, even if it's in their best interest from a competitor perspective. So I'm really hoping First reconsiders putting this in games in the future, because I think it's leading to some pretty poor outcomes.
Yeah, no, I'm totally in agreement with you. And I think like this year specifically, I think like just make average match score the first tiebreaker, right? Like average match score, one depicts, how well you're performing. So it should relatively correlate with the rank point, right? You'll have some deviations here and there, but like if you look at, if you sort Contra Costa by average match, right, it's 1323. Shortly behind that is 1678, right? So inherently, you still get the same team up, but you don't have to deal with the, and then 20 points below that is 604, right? So they're still, at 180, which is still great, but there's a gap there that, breaks that up. And I don't think that we need to your point, use co-op as something that FRC is trying to intend it to be, and actually it turned into be the opposite to, spin it around and then try and influence the team's ranking. And I think the big thing for me, and you hit it on the nail, is I should not be able to influence an opponent's team ranking because I don't want to do something in a match. Like that doesn't make sense to me, right? A team, for the most part, should have, their ranking in their control. And, inherently there's some of it that you don't, right? You get a rough match schedule that is going to play into that a bit. But if one team can make one decision and not do something, and that now influences my rank, I think that's a bad design. At least in my opinion. I totally share the same thoughts with you. But Connor, any thoughts on with co-op being the first tiebreaker?
So co-op needs to be a factor in the game, but I don't think it needs to be that first tiebreaker. I can agree with that part. I think I really like the idea of that average match, like match score. I know we did that in Recycle Rush. I think it worked out pretty well. To my, I mean, at least I think it did. I don't know. Recycle Rush is a weird game, man. I can at least see the reason for having co-op and making it a big deal, though. But Mike, you bring up a really good point about the real co-op is back in the pits helping each other out. I can also kind of see it from FRC's point of view as well, because they talk a lot about cooperation and stuff, and a lot of people from the outside of FRC might not see what's going on behind the scenes in the pit, but being able to see that cooperation on the field where it's front and center, that's their big thing. I can totally understand where FRC is coming from that. I still definitely agree. I don't think it should be that first tiebreaker. Maybe it's the second, maybe it's the third. But I think it's still a necessary part of the program, in my opinion.
One way to incentivize it to keep popping up is keep it as the first tiebreaker, but make it so that if your alliance achieves your half of the co-op, you get that tiebreaker ranking. You get that tiebreaker influence, right? So you don't get the benefit towards that RP advantage unless both alliances do it. But if your alliance does your part, you at least get the tiebreaker credit towards the ranking score, right? And so that's actually it makes it more advantageous for your alliance to go for it every match because it's going to bump up your tiebreaker. We might see it happen more often as well. And, if that's the brand that FRC is trying to build through the game design, then sure, go for it. But like Nick said, it shouldn't come down to what our opponent wants to do to influence our ranking score.
Sure, that makes sense. I guess to add on another thing there, with this game allowing you to be able to cross to the other side of the field and score into their processor, you technically can go and do the forced co-op. I don't know if
it's just against the spirit of what they're trying to do, right?
And they can defend it too. That's the thing. They can sit in front of it all match if they really are committed to making sure and we were lucky that we had another path, which was getting 6 ranking points. There's other situations where, if 604 was on level on ranking points with the other two alliances, they'd be doing everything to just park in front of that processor all match. It's just the way that these teams would think, and that makes sense for them. But it's just a really crummy way for these things to go.
Yeah, for sure, that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right, well, before we go and jump into our final topic of the night, we'll draw for the giveaway from Swift, start another one, and hear a quick announcement from our producer Tyler.
Let's try that again. It's for the Swift Ranger distance sensor. So we're going to draw 2 winners for that. So you'll see 2 separate names come up. If you do win, please go to funroboxnetwork.com and click that giveaway button link in order to win that. Once again, funroboxnetwork.com. And our 2 winners, let's go ahead. All right, first one is going to be Epiphany Lockman. Congratulations, E. And our next person is going to be Adam L. Jaruni. Congratulations to both of you. Please go to funroboxnetwork.com, click that giveaway winner link, and that is your opportunity to claim that. Thanks again to Swift Robotics for the awesome giveaway as well, too. We will be starting another giveaway in just a moment as well, too. But teams, we know that many of you who are going to DCMP and going to championships are going to need some parts really fast. And the good news is you can get 50% off your first order up to $100 when you go to funroboticsnetwork.com/OSHCUT. Oshkosh has a wide variety, same-day turnaround, instant quotes for you if you need parts fast. So go to funroboticsnetwork.com/OSHCUT, and that will give you an opportunity to get a coupon for 50% off your first order up to $100 off. So you can do a $200 order, get 50% off, and get parts fast and some very high-quality parts as well, too. That's funroboticsnetwork.com/OSHCUT. And we're going to start our next giveaway for our friends at Crossroad Electronics. They're giving away a $75 CTR Electronics gift card. Of course, you know all about CTR Electronics, top quality robotics components, cutting edge innovation, and a commitment to excellence that's second to none. So in partnership with Fun, giving away the $75 voucher, you can try things like their best-selling can coder or Canivore, or be one of the first to have the brand new products that are coming out. Make sure you also check out their championship booth as well, too. So type in CTR Electronics. That's your opportunity to win, and we'll draw from that in just a few minutes. Let's send it back to the team.
Awesome. Thanks, Tyler. Thanks again from our friends at Oshkosh and CTR. All right, jumping into our final top of the night, I will hand it to my co-host, Connor, to lead us.
Muted. All right. Mission point muted in chat. All right. So our final topic of the night, we're going to be talking about Coral scoring adjustments. There was a blog post put out last Friday by First HQ, talking about something very interesting that happened over the course of the last 4 weeks of competition. So what they said is that part of the scoring criteria for Coral is noticed in section 6.5.1. A Coral scored an auto must be scored at the end of the match to receive auto points. There was an issue with FMS where it was still counting the Coral as scored an auto, even if it ended up getting removed in teleop. And it actually ended up affecting the outcome of a few matches, 8 of them to be specific, out of the 11,490 matches that had already been played so far. So first did some correcting here by adding in additional regional points and district points to the teams that got affected by that. What I really like here is that first did not negatively impact the teams where they would have been on the receiving end of the loss. Everything stayed the same for that. The teams that got negatively impacted ended up going up, getting more district points, getting regional points. Hats off to first to that. Fortunately, I think 6 of the 8 were in quals. 2 of them were in playoffs. 1 of them was a first round. The other one was unfortunately a lower bracket championship match, which that's gutting, man. I would hope. I'll ask this question and then I'll pass it off to you, Mike, for your comments. But do you think that maybe that for that match 13, both alliances should get medals?
Gosh,
that's kind of a loaded question, man.
It is a loaded question. I'll start by saying probably not. I think the teams kind of need to understand that these things happen sometimes. And I know this also isn't an easy answer or an easy solution, but this is an encouragement to teams to triple check scores of matches. And I know this was a hard bug to catch, and which is why it's happened so few times in the broad scope of how many matches there were. However, there are teams that are in the practice of manually double checking the scores when they go up to make sure they line up with their understanding of how the scores should be. It's not an easy thing to do. Scorekeeping in this game is hard enough as is, which is, I think, why that problem happens. But it could be encouragement to teams to take it upon themselves to double check this stuff. And not that they should be expected to, but at the same time, I think a case could have been made if it was caught in the moment that, hey, this might need to be rescored, and spending some time in the question box to discuss it with the head ref. So that's not to say that the teams that were impacted did anything wrong, but something to consider. And at a certain level, you want to try to mitigate risk in every way possible. So having a crew of scouts that are, especially during playoffs, double checking all the scores as they go up to make sure they line up with what your scouts are seeing could be a way to help mitigate this if teams are worried about being impacted by this in the future. Not this bug for this season, but just as a general practice going forward.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Yeah, no, it totally makes sense. I agree with a lot of that. One of the reasons why I bring up, at least for the medals, is that was a discussion that I've had with some friends and throughout the New England area. So I think it would be a definite interesting question to kind of bring up, and food for thought from the two of you guys. So Nick, I guess same question for you. What are your thoughts about this overall?
Yeah, so I think in general, I'm with Mike. I don't know that the issue warrants both teams getting medals. To your point, Connor, it sucks. It's super unfortunate that's what happened, but I guess I'm gonna take it a bit of a different way. We are streaming every single FRC event. There is no reason to not have video review at this point, even if it's something simple. And granted, to Mike's point, scoring in this game is already hard enough, so it might not. It obviously wasn't caught immediately, but if something like this was caught, I would hope that this wouldn't be the case. But my gut probably says that the answer they would have gotten would have been, "Sorry, try next time." And maybe I'm wrong, but at least that's where my gut goes to what the answer that they would get. And like I said, we're streaming every event. There's got to be a point where that's got to come into play eventually. And I know that's it's a much larger issue than the service that I'm giving it right now, because you're inherently opening up a whole new can of worms and new processes and whatnot. But I think that would help. The other thing too is to your point, Connor. I'm glad FRC took care of it. I think they did the right thing by coming out, admitting the issue, rewarding teams the points that were negatively affected by it, but also not taking away points from teams that it positively affected. I think that's the right thing to do. And obviously, it's an unfortunate scenario all around, but I think overall how they handled it was pretty good. So
I think there's also
ahead,
one other case really quick. I think this is also a case to be made for FRC. Hopefully, we have a chance in 27 to make this FMS easier to
1,000%.
run. Teams should be able to spin up FMSs at their home shop the week after kickoff, so they can run official matches at home. I think FRC is going to find that when they have a couple hundred users of the FMS in the first month, they're going to find more of these types of bugs that could come into play with the scoring and things like that. Right now, it's so shut down and the hardware is so archaic and hard to run that FTAs have to get training every other year in New Hampshire, which show me another high school program where you need to fly out key staff every year to New England, right? It doesn't make a lot of sense. It doesn't scale up, and they're going to have things like this happen every year until the hardware and the software is more productized and democratized, so that it can be used more broadly. I mean, every team's trying to spin up their own things, and we have Chesney Arena and stuff, but man, at FRC just locked this down a little bit more and had something that they could spread to the teams, I don't think we'd be seeing as many of these issues happen in week 1 to I guess week 4 of the competition.
To have FMS at home would have been so massive for us for week 3, because we found out that our auto align every time that we tried to use it for the first time when we had it at week 3 would crash our code. But that that never happened in practice. So we could only replicate that issue on the field. So if we were able to have that ability to do that in our home shop, I mean, that's a $200 match right there that we could have easily avoided by having that tool at home. That could be really, really powerful.
Yeah. All right, before we go ahead and wrap up the show, let's bring Tyler back on to draw for that giveaway from our friends at CTR.
Yeah, thanks. If we didn't have to keep flying people out to Manchester, maybe we wouldn't have to raise prices by $300. So, with that
what's wrong with New Hampshire?
Let's go ahead and do that giveaway from CTR Electronics on here. Once again, those for a $75 gift card. CTR Electronics was the keyword. Once again, please go to thunderboxnetwork.com if you do win. And that is going to be, it's Crazy Fish 784. Congratulations to you. Go to thunderboxnetwork.com. Click that giveaway button link. But I think you won before. You should know how it works. Congratulations. And put lots of rigged emotes in chat. Clearly rigged it for all these individuals to win. Congrats.
Awesome. Thanks again from our friends at CTR for the giveaway. Thank you to Mike, our guest, for coming on tonight. On behalf of our producer, Tyler Olds, my co-host, Connor, and all fun correspondents, I'm Nick, and thanks for watching tonight. Good luck to all teams as we enter here into the final weeks of competition. I know we got DCMPs this weekend as well as the final round of regionals happening. Remember now that during the competition season, FRC Roundup is live at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, Monday nights at Fun Robotics Network on YouTube. And archives of the show can be found on our YouTube channel by searching Fun Robotics Network. I believe Connor and I will both be at New England and First and Michigan District Champs, respectively, this coming weekend. So if you happen to see us, please feel free to stop us and say hi. And be sure to join us next week where we take a look at what is going on with First Robotics on FRC Roundup. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell to stay up to date on future fun videos. Osh Cut is a premier metal cutting service for first teams. No minimum order, options for same-day turnaround, guaranteed lead times, and instant online quotes. Osh Cut is offering first teams 50% off any future order up to $200 when you scan the QR code or go to funroboticsnetwork.com/OSHCUT. Just upload a 3D model or flat pattern to get started. Build your alliance with so many other FIRST alumni who go to Kettering University. Every student at Kettering experiences their cutting-edge co-op programs that seamlessly blend the professional and academic worlds. Kettering co-ops are a fully immersive working experience at the leading edge of industry. Head on over to kettering.edu/first to learn more about their incredible programs and to get more information.